Morning, paddlers worldwide. This is Gary again with another crap paddling video coming to you from the California Center for Research on Advanced Paddling, and this has to do with using perceptual goals to fine-tune my wing paddle stroke. And you know, you could sort of divide the variables or the things that you need to be concerned about into position and timing. Okay, so for example, we're going to look at 4 of these. In terms of position, we want the blade to come in as close to the boat as possible, right? Okay. And we also want the top hand, at least I do, when the blade is going in, to start out at about eye level, and it may come down to around shoulder level. On flat water, of course, on ocean, you may want to use a lower angle, but this is sort of the standard. So those are 2 positions. Timing has to do with things like, when do you start applying force to the blade? You know, how early, how late, okay? And another timing is, how do you coordinate the leg drive with the stroke? So these are the 4 things that I'm going to be looking at here, and the perceptual variables are interesting because 2 of them are sound, and 2 of them have to do with vision, I think. Okay, so how do you know if the blade is getting close to the boat? Well, I mean, you can certainly look, but you can hear. You can actually hit the side of the boat gently, and then just sort of back off from there. And even when I'm normally paddling, I like to hear that sound once in a while. I have protection against there. It hasn't done anything that I can see to my Yantex paddle or my Epic. So that's one way to check that you're getting as close to the boat as possible. And little clicks there, and then back off. Okay, I'm backing off. So now I'm close to the boat, sometimes a little too close. Okay, so that's a position. Now, another one is, when do you start pushing down? Now, there's different views on this, but my view, and I think it's pretty standard, is that you want to start applying force as soon as you can, but not too soon. Okay? Because as the blade is going in, that's an opportunity to start applying force. But if the force is too early and too strong at the beginning, you'll just have cavitation, air bubbles, and all that bad stuff, okay? So like getting it close to the boat, this is another sound thing, because what you can do is try to go too early, and you will both see and hear. That's no good. It'll be like tearing the water, and then back off a little bit, okay? So this is what this is like. I'm going to try to ramp up the force as it goes down, and then make it earlier. And you can hear that plop, and you may be able to see it. And I'll back off a little bit in the timing. Someplace around there. Okay, so now I have the blade going in where I want. I have the force being applied when I want, right? Early as possible, but not too early. Now, let's take a look at 2 other things. Where's the top hand going to go? Okay, so the top hand, I like to start off at about eye level, come across, and maybe drop down to around shoulder level. Now, I often will use a mirror here, convex mirror, so I can actually see that more easily, but I can still sort of get a pretty good idea. And I want that top hand coming across, looking the same on both sides. So what happens, what I can see here, sort of like the middle of the top blade lines up with the middle of the boat, and the hand comes well over. I want that to be about the same. So I can check that. So this is, again, a position thing. Okay? Trying to think about smacking the boat. Early application of force, but not too early. Try and keep all these things in mind, but I'm just focusing right now on the top hand. Okay. I'm not too worried about the path of the blade. I sort of let it go where it wants to go, whatever gives me the most resistance. So now I have that figured out. The fourth thing is the leg drive. Now, I'm not really concerned about, am I moving my hips or not, enough or not, because my view is that if I'm like that, my hips have to be rotated to the right. One leg is almost straight, the other one is bent, has to be rotated to the left. That's a given. You know, as long as my heels aren't going underneath the foot brace, which can happen in a surf ski, or I'm pushing hard against the back, which I'm not. There's no friction against the back. I keep the brace far enough so that my tailbone doesn't rub. So I'm not worried about that. If I see this and my leg is going down, and that's fine, and that's easy. What is important is the timing. So leg drive is not leg drive if you're applying it when the paddle isn't in the water, right? So if I'm doing this and then putting the blade in, right, that is obviously no good. So I don't want it too early, and I don't want it too late. I don't want it happening way back here, way back here. So like the other variables, what I can try to do here is see what it's like if it's too early, see what it feels like if it's too late, and sort of get in between, right? So what would too early feel like? This is too early. I'm rotating my hips even before the blade goes in. Clearly, that's not leg drive, right? That feels bad. Now, too late would be something like I'm really pulling hard before I even do the leg drive. Right? And so that's not being used. You really want it right at the beginning of the stroke. All right? I think Ivan says leg drive, you should feel the pressure on the foot just a little bit before the paddle goes in. That doesn't work for me. That makes it too early, at least as I perceive it. So I want to be a little bit later. And one thing that's helped me is thinking about swimming. Because in swimming, for a longer distance stroke like I would do in triathlons, you do what they call front quarter stroke. And that front arm stays out there until the other arm comes in. And then you glide, right? You want a long vessel. You're doing this, right? Right? It's not windmill style with the two hands 180 degrees apart. That doesn't work. That may work for sprints, but not for... So I found myself thinking of that in terms of the leg drive helping me to think of when it comes in. I want to start pulling a little bit with the blade. Then this leg is out and I leave it out there until I feel the pressure from the other side. All right? So it's sort of like I'm taking my stroke, putting it into that outstretched leg in the way that I would do this swimming. All right? So I think of that. So that is a timing thing as well. And that, thinking of that glide with the leg stretched out, helps me put a little bit of a pause, perhaps, in my leg drive. Not to rush it. Not to rush it. So the four things I'm looking at: getting the blade close to the boat. I know that's happening because it's too close. Getting the force on early. but not too early. Sort of like that. Checking my top hand. And then the timing of the leg drive. Sort of like that. With a little pause. Keep that leg extended. Glide on it. Glide. For some reason, my paddle's making more noise than I'd like. And here comes the rowers. So the four things I'm looking at, getting the blade close to the boat. I know that's happening. Close to the boat. Getting the force on early, but not too early. Like that. Taking my top hand. And then the timing of the leg drive. Sort of like that. Pause, keep that leg extended, glide on it. For some reason my paddle's making more noise than I'd like. And here comes the rowers. So anyway, those are 4 parameters or 4 variables that you can consider working on, that I think of. Again, 2 position and 2 having to do with timing. And what I'm trying to do is provide perceptual goals from the viewpoint of you, of the paddler, so you know what you should be feeling, seeing, hearing while you're paddling. Here they go. Oh boy, these two are close. They are close. Oh, these are ladies. These are the ladies. Oh, one is going to win.